Do you lay down like on the ground to kind of get some images as well?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm not, and I know I should. I know that I know I've heard.
Everybody, and welcome back to our channel. And here this time, I know it is a different look. I am so excited that we also have co-host
Keisha Holmes.
Yes, Keisha is here. She and we are both the founders of Black Female Landscape and Nature Photographers. And on this series, we have with us interviewing wildlife photographer, or I can be corrected, Natalie McBryant.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Hello, Natalie.
Hello.
How are you, Natalie?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we are excited to have you. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So this format, I know you guys have been used to seeing like the one-on-one, but you know, as much as we're saying it's about community, we want to bring more of a community feel to our interview. Let's go ahead and get into this interview about Natalie. Natalie, where are you located?
I am located in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm originally from North Carolina, but I moved to Florida about 2015, about eight years ago this summer. So,
okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's jump right into the photography. When did that happen? What's the background? And as you're talking about that, why wildlife? And I think also insects too.
Yes. So there's a story behind that. So I'm relatively new to photography. It'll be 3 years in May that I've been on this photographer journey. And it started with my mom's camera and a photography date. So my mom loved taking pictures. She didn't do it professionally. She just always had a camera in hand, and she was snapping everybody that was around us and family functions and church functions. And so my dad bought her a Canon Rebel 2000.
I'm sorry, what brand was that?
Canon.
Did you say Canon?
I did say Canon.
Okay, because you know, there's some people that they shoot with other brands.
Yes, I'm one of them.
No, yeah, so, Canon. I love Canon.
My mom started, she had a Canon. And so she passed away in 2000. And I have her camera, and it had been in my closet since then. And I never had a desire really to take it out. And then I started dating a guy a few years ago, and he's an enthusiast photographer. And so I looked at the camera in the closet, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to learn how to use this camera. And we said we'd go out on a photography date. So I took the camera out, and I noticed like it's not digital. You know, it has auto mode, but it had a lot of other modes. And I said, I'm gonna learn this camera. I'm gonna learn photography, and I don't want to shoot in auto mode. I want to learn all the other things about photography. So I started on YouTube, and I just watched a ton of beginner photography YouTube videos and just learning about aperture and shutter speed and different modes and different ideal settings and things to look out for. And if you're shooting this, you want these settings, and try this and try that. So I learned it all, or as much as I could. And we went out on a photography date. Went to a local park, and I wasn't a digital camera, so I couldn't see what I was taking a picture of. And that's probably a good thing, because I'm sure a lot of pictures were overexposed and underexposed. I just loved how it felt being behind the camera. I loved just different angles. There was an old house, and shooting it from different angles, and then the St. Johns River. We'd go out to the river, took some pictures there, and I was hooked from that day. I was hooked. So I think that night or the next day, I called my dad and I said, Dad, I took mom's camera out, went with Kenny, we had a photography date and it was great. And within a few days, my dad had mailed me my first DSLR. It was a Nikon D3500.
Okay.
that is where I started. I started with the Nikon, but my dad said, I bought your mom her camera. I'm buying you a camera, have fun. And I've just been hooked since then. So we started out, you mentioned like getting into wildlife. We started out with flowers and bugs. And the first specific lens I got was a macro lens. And I was just fascinated. I'm not a bug person. I don't like bugs, but oh my gosh, have you ever seen the back of a dragonfly? Like when you look at bugs up close, they're robotic and they're amazing. And so I was out every day just taking pictures of frogs and butterflies. If they would, land and sit still for a bit, I'd get a picture of a butterfly. And I loved it. And that was in May in the summer. So when fall and winter came, if you can call it winter in Florida, the flowers died, the bugs went away. And so we were like, oh, bummer, I don't have anything else to shoot. And then one day we went to a park we normally go to, and it had a pond, and a tricolored heron, my spark bird, perched in front of me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just took a million pictures. And then I was like, okay, birds. I'm into birds, and birds have been my thing ever since. I still do macro occasionally when the season allows, but birds, I love birds. I love birds.
So do you travel? I mean, like Florida has a different landscape, but I know this one photographer, he said that he used to travel around because he was a landscape photographer. He traveled a lot just to go do the landscape, but then he decided to embrace where he lived, which is in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
So do you travel throughout Florida for the birds, or you just stay in like one location?
We travel, we found a few places here in Jacksonville. There are a couple of parks that we can visit, and they have birds. There's a St. Augustine has a rookery. The St. Augustine Alligator Farm has a rookery. And so a lot of birds come there and they nest there. And so that's actually coming up in the next month up until June. A lot of the herons and the spoonbills, they mate. They get their beautiful plumage and displays and all of that. So that's local. So we do go to local places. We also drive. We just got back last weekend. We drove over to Tampa, right outside of Tampa. There's a place called Circle B Bar. So we've traveled within Florida. We've not yet ventured outside of Florida. But we've been to Gainesville. There's some wetlands there, and we've been to Orlando and Tampa. So we've stayed within Florida, but definitely want to get more places in Florida and beyond Florida.
Okay. Well, also, I know with landscape photography, a lot of people travel to all these different places, but one question that I would like to know is that, some people feel that it's the camera rather than the photographer that creates the image. So tell us your thoughts on this. Which one do you feel it is? Is it the camera? Is it the photographer's eye? Or do you think that is both?
So I think both go into creating an image, but the most important part of it, I think, is the photographer's eye. Because it's when you capture a picture, it's what you see. It's what you saw in that moment. And somebody could be standing right beside you and see something totally different, but it's what caught your eye. And then when you capture it and you share it, you're sharing what you were focused on, what stood out to you, you're sharing whatever the beautiful thing that was before you, you're sharing that with everybody else. And that's more reflective of your eye than, the camera or the lens or the technology. I think that's what's behind, the photos, really the photographer and what they saw and what they wanted to share you know, with that image. So I think that's most important. The gear can help. It does help. It has helped me. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the photographer and what they see, what they saw in that moment. Because I like landscape photography. I don't feel like I have an eye landscape. I can look out a field and I just see a tree. But then a landscape photographer like yourselves, you'll take a picture and it's like, oh my gosh, look at the reflections, look at the angles, look at it. I didn't see any of that. I just saw a tree, but it's like you have to have an eye. You know what I mean? Like it's not just the camera taking a picture of something. It's what you saw, what patterns you picked up on, what reflections, what angles you saw. That to me is what's most important. It's the photographer.
What do you?
It's funny. Go ahead, Angela.
No, what? Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, I like the way she put that, because it's like, I'm not a wildlife photographer. I want to get into that, but that don't come easy for me. It's like, Angela and I was discussing, a couple of weeks ago that, you got to have your camera on these certain, burst modes, and the bird just sitting there and you can catch it, and then all of a sudden it just fly away. Now,
Yes.
we lost it. So
yes. Yes.
Yeah, I can surely attest to that, because there's been plenty of conversations when I'm talking with Keisha, because I flip flop.
Okay.
I can be out all day. I can start with landscape, jump into wildlife, see a beautiful caterpillar or grasshopper, and I'm like, oh, I got to put this lens on.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, with the bird photography and or with your macro, what do you find is the hardest part?
Photographing something that is moving. That is the most challenging. And with birds, for me, it's seeing the bird. So my boyfriend is my spotter, and I go shoot photography without him sometimes, but I'm so much more effective when he's with me because I can see something move, but I have the hardest time figuring out, especially the small birds, where did it go? Where did it land? Where is it? And so he has gotten, he's really good at being able to say, okay, you see this tree, go up to the third branch and then move over there. And then it's like, oh, okay, there it is. And then I get excited and I take the picture. Even with bugs that are on a, leaf, they're moving so fast. And so trying to get them at the right angle, trying to, get them in focus and having the right shutter speed and having the right light and all of that with something moving, that is the hardest part. When it's great when a bird, flies somewhere and they land, like I posted a Baltic kingfisher recently, which you all featured, and I thank you for that.
Love that picture.
that bird is notorious for not stopping anywhere for a long period, but it just so happened that she was flying by and she perched and she just sat there. It's like, oh, you're just, that's so rare. It's so rare for small birds to stop and stay still long enough to get a picture. And then the larger birds, it's harder. I think you mentioned when they're in birds in flight. I'm not as good at birds in flight as I would like to be. I have a hard time yet. I know it takes practice, and you just got to get out there and practice, because I can see the bird, and then when I look through my lens, I don't see the bird. And so then I hold the camera down and I look and I see it, and then I put it back up and I don't. And by that time, the bird has flown by and it's flying away from me now. So, but that's also tough. That your subject is moving, and sometimes that your subject is moving rapidly. That is the hardest part of wildlife photography to me.
Okay. So how has, wildlife or do you only, you do birds and macro, do you do any other type of wildlife?
In Florida,
there are a lot of gators down there in Florida.
In Florida, you can't help but photo an alligator every now and then. When you go out in Florida with a long lens and you're going to the parks, it is inevitable that someone is going to stop you and say, oh, there's an alligator. Did you see that alligator? Because everybody assumes if you're there with a long lens, you must be an alligator. You must be there for the alligators. So I have pictures of alligators. They're not the most interesting to me. But if I, see an alligator in an interesting, location or something, or a pose or whatever, I'll take a picture. But with the macros, I love tree frogs. I love a good tree frog. I love a good tree frog. And butterflies. There's a butterfly garden, a butterfly rainforest in Gainesville at, I think, University of Florida in Gainesville. I think it's there. But there's a butterfly rainforest. And so it's an indoor screened in, lots of plants and just tons of butterflies everywhere. And so you go there with your macro lens and you just get so many opportunities to photograph butterflies. So, and the occasional lizard, because it's Florida. So of course there's going to be lizard every now and then, but those are the main subjects for me.
Okay.
Do you have like a particular, like your dream bird to capture an image of?
It's I would say any owl. I have yet to capture an owl. I am sure that I've been places and they have been there and they've been perched in a tree,
Looking at you.
perfectly still, looking at me. And I've been looking and I just have not seen, but I have not seen one, not even flying away, not far away. I have yet to capture any owl. I'd be happy with it, whether it's, the burrowing, the ones in the ground or the ones in the trees. Any owl, I would be happy for that. That and a good shot of a bald eagle. I was close, somewhat close to one, but not close enough to get a really great picture. But I'd like to get a bald eagle, and I really, really want to get an owl. That'd be great.
So what is your longest lens like that you use? I know you go macro, but what is your longest wildlife lens?
So I shoot now with a 2-6. It's a Sony. So I switched from Nikon
Who use a who?
I switched to Sony. I'm on Sony now.
I'm a Sony shooter. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So
I'm a Canon shooter. I'm a Canon shooter.
You're a Canon shooter. Okay. Well,
I use a 200 to 600.
I have a 200 to 600, and I recently, just a few days ago, got the 100 to 400.
That's a beautiful lens.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that one. And then I have the macro lens as well. But the longest lens is the 2-6.
Okay. Do you use a teleconverter?
I don't. I've thought about getting one, but a lot of the places, there are a few places where we've gone that I think I really could have used a teleconverter because, I think Merritt Island, sometimes what you're shooting is very far away, but a lot of the places we go, they're close enough that 600 is good. But I probably will at some point invest in a teleconverter just to have it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's sad because we were showing.
I think I'm gonna be okay. I mean, it's all about it's a tool,
It's a tool.
Cameras are tools.
It is a tool.
It's a tool now.
So let me ask you, given what you have, learned in these 3 years of photography, how do you feel that photography has attributed to you being the woman that you are today?
So photography plays a huge part in my life. It's made me more appreciative, more present, more aware. So I have two hobbies. I'm a cyclist and photographer. And 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years in April, I went out for a bike ride in my neighborhood like I normally do. And I was hit by a drunk driver. And it was pretty serious. I had to be life flighted to the hospital. I was there for a month. And then I spent almost a year out of work, just recovering. And so through all the, aches and pains and various things like that, the one injury that lingered is a traumatic brain injury, because as a result of that, I lost vision in my left eye. So I don't see out of my left eye anymore. And I couldn't get back on I couldn't get back on the bike right away, but after a couple of months, we did go back out to a park and I did start shooting again. And it brought me so much joy, because when you are trying to take a photo of something, you're not thinking about all the bad things that have happened. You're not thinking about your bad day. You're not thinking about, a bad day at work you're thinking about it. You're present, you're in that moment. You are interacting with nature. You are seeing, God's beautiful creation, and you're trying to capture it. And that's all you're thinking about. And so it became a source of joy for me. And it made me more just appreciative of, the vision that I do have, and that I still get to see the beauty that's in the world. I still get to see birds. I still get to see and photograph them. And part of I'm also a gadget girl. I love technology. So I appreciate all of the advancements with the autofocus and the bird eye tracking, things that make photography easier for people who have visual difficulties. And so it just made me more appreciative and made me much more present, and just aware. And so I don't take anything for granted anymore. I don't take a moment for granted. So when I'm able to witness, a mama bird feeding a baby bird, or, a brown pelican doing this exaggerated yawn, like I appreciate it. I can see it and I can interact with it. And I'm thankful for that. So photography has been a tremendous source of joy, especially when life was hard, especially when life was dark. Photography brought me joy, and it allowed me to see just how much beauty is in the world. So,
That was beautiful.
thank you.
It was beautiful,
It really
because
was.
most of us was raised in a city, and we see all these buildings, and that's all we spend our life just staying in one area. And Angela and I, we talk about it all the time, that it's a lot of beautiful places out there. Even not, it could be in your backyard or whatever, but it's beautiful. And a lot of us just don't want to go out there and experience it and see it. And I went down to the Everglades, and I had someone say, "What's down there?" It's pretty down there. Go down there and see it. They lived in Miami their whole life. Go down there and see it. It's pretty. And you get to appreciate, like you said, the beauty that's out there in nature, and the animals. And a lot of people life just passing them by because they just sit in the house.
Right.
Exactly. And not even going out in your backyard. Even if you're just in your backyard, plotted up, and you can see so much, the birds, you can see insects, but it's, people want to live through what we put online. So,
That's true. That's true.
But just to also piggyback a little bit off what you said, it's very therapeutic.
It is.
Nature just has that way, like you said, it just takes you mentally away to detach from things.
Exactly.
It does.
And,
Absolutely.
People just don't get it. People have fear. And speaking of fear, I want to ask you this. With you, now I know that, you started off and you had your photography date. That's awesome. But aside from your significant other, how do you handle when, whether with friends or family, them saying, you take pictures of bugs and wild animals? Why? Aren't you scared?
So yes, and I know there's some people who don't, they don't get it. They might see one picture of a bird, but they don't want to look at birds every day. They don't want to look at, different, and I get it. Everybody has their own interests. So I don't take it personally. I'm sure there are things that I wouldn't want to see or experience every day or what have you that other people might enjoy. So I don't take it personally. But as far as the fear, the only thing, alligators. I know they're not going to get me. I know that. I know that they're not thinking about me. I don't know that. I think that they're not thinking about me. But whenever that's probably where the fear comes in and it hasn't stopped me. But when we go to a wetlands area and the alligators are right there on the side, and you just got to walk past them and just know that they're not going to bother you. They're used to people. They're full. They're laying there. They're good.
You said they're full. Their bellies are already full. They're not trying to eat anything
right,
else.
right. Because I feel like if they were hungry, they might might it. But I hold my breath and I walk as fast as I can. And I've never had one snap or turn or do anything, and granted, I don't want to be that news story, but that's that's the only fear I think that I've had. Otherwise I've just and I am afraid of, which is odd, I'm afraid of bugs and snakes if they were in my house. But if I have a camera, it's an opportunity. Like it's an opportunity. That snake is way over there and I have a long lens, so I'm good. But I want to get this shot. I really want to get this shot, like in the moment. But if I didn't have my camera, then I would be, I probably would be more afraid. But I just appreciate their beauty so much. Not just snakes, but snakes, spiders, insects, bugs. I appreciate their beauty. And that to me outweighs the fear in the moment with my camera.
Okay. So has a pandemic, especially early on when it kind of like first started, has it had any effect on your craft or going out taking photos?
It didn't, because I started in May of 2020. So we were, kind of well into the pandemic at that point. So if there were places that we went, the main concern was some places might want you to wear a mask. And so you had to be mindful if you were passing, in close proximity to other people. So, that you have a mask on, they have a mask on or what have you. But that it didn't stop us from going anywhere, because we were more outdoor anyway. So it's like, it didn't stop us from going anywhere, or slow anything down that I can think of. It just was our opportunity to be outside with nature.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And you guys have adjusted since then, I guess, because it's not over, but it's not as bad as it was before.
It's not as bad as it was. Fewer people are, when we go out now, and fewer people are masked, or you see those regulations or requirements or what have you. So, it's not. I don't think it's affected us. I can't think of a way that it has limited us. We've still been able to go out and shoot. So.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about how wildlife, one of the challenging aspects of it is that, your subjects, they don't like to be still.
Right.
You don't have control. It's not like they see you and they're like, oh, there's Natalie.
Right. Let me pose.
Like
Exactly.
Pose, right?
Exactly.
So with that being said, what has been like your most challenging shoot where you saw the subject, bird, insect, whatever, and you were like head over heels determined you are going to get the shot that you saw in your mind?
Mhm. So I'm just reminded of a time when I was out, and it's probably a small bird. We were in, I think, in Gainesville, and we were in a park, wooded area, and there was a bird, and you could hear the bird, and you could occasionally see it darting from one tree to the next tree to the next tree. And it was so very frustrating, because again, by the time my boyfriend could say this tree, then it would hop over. So then I could see it move, and then I'm going there, and it was a long day. It was very frustrating, but eventually it did stop, and I was able to get a couple of pictures. They didn't turn out to be great pictures, but it was small birds. Small birds have proven to be the most challenging, just because especially in the spring and in the summer when the leaves are back on the trees, because I'm grateful for when the leaves aren't there, because they're just branches. So especially if it's a bright color, I can see that color very easily. So, well, not very easily, but more easily. But if there are leaves and there's, not a lot of light, I have at times just kind of said, okay, I'm good. I'm good. We don't have to, but it's
We're
like,
over
no,
here,
no,
honey.
no.
We're going. We're leaving. We're gone.
I'm good. I'm good. So, but
Wait a minute. When you said you're good, but in your mind, were you like, I'm not going to tell him because I had him out here all day, but we're coming
yes,
back tomorrow?
yeah. I get frustrated, and I can get to a point where I just feel defeated, whereas, and especially so even a couple of weekends ago, we were at Circle B Bar, and there was a squirrel that was hanging upside down, and he was trying to tell me, like, hey, see that squirrel that's hanging upside down. And now, mind you, the squirrel was moving a little. It wasn't completely still, but it was hanging in this one spot. And he says, look, okay, find this tree, go up. And I was looking further back than he was telling me, so I couldn't see it. But the frustrating part was other people were coming by us, and they were like, oh my gosh, is that squirrel hanging upside down? And I was like, I don't see it, but everybody else could see it. And so it's frustrating as all get out to not be able to find something, especially if it's well camouflaged or it's blending in with the habitat. It's frustrating. And I was like, I'm okay. I don't have to get the squirrel, but he knows me well enough to know she's not okay. We got to find this squirrel.
How much taller of him is he to you? What's his height?
He's a little over about 6 feet, I think. So
And how tall are you?
5'5".
Okay, so yeah, he's gonna see it much differently and easier than you.
Yeah. His vision is very spot. He's very good. He's very good at seeing. And even before the accident, I still was not good at locating birds. So it's always been that, but that's our thing. It's like, he's my spotter, and I'm grateful.
That's good. So, is there anyone who inspires you to keep creating and exploring? Like
Yes,
photographers, you look at their work, or whoever.
a lot of other photographers, especially other bird photographers. But I follow a number of people on Instagram, and I'm always inspired. And I see pictures that have amazing bokeh, and I love bokeh. I love good bokeh. And so when I see a picture that has that, it inspires me. When I see people that capture a bird with minimal background, or they traveled to Costa Rica and they saw this bird, it inspires me. I want to travel. I want to get better. So just the community as a whole, whenever I discovered the hashtag Black Birders Week, and I started following other, Black birders, I was like, oh my gosh, and I learned so much. I learned so much. I love when people post and then they describe, how they got the image, or,
Right.
especially if someone says, I thought about tossing this image, but this is why I posted it. And it's like, oh, I struggle with that too.
Right.
And so, I'm inspired when people share, what a post means to them, how it was difficult, what they overcame, why they didn't think it was a good shot, but then they changed something and got the shot. Like I'm inspired by our community, and I'm primarily on Instagram. So it's just the communities that are there. I'm constantly, daily inspired by.
Now, speaking, I have to cut you for one, not cut you, but anyway. What?
Just go ahead.
Take two. All right, I want to ask you this question, as you're talking about inspiration. The picture of the egret with the wings or the plumes, that white,
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
How did you feel? I mean, that right there, that image.
Yeah. I caught that, or I took that picture at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm. And it was again during this time of year, they're in their breeding plumage. And so egrets have those very, during their breeding feathers or plumage are those long, spindles that go out from the bird that were in that picture. And, they do these elaborate displays, and in the moment, you see this egret and you see the feathers spread out, and you're taking pictures, and then you're taking the burst, and it's moving up and down, and you don't realize until you get home and you start going through your images and you realize, I caught that. Oh my gosh, I caught that. Like it was a superb moment. I mean, just being there and witnessing it, and just knowing that, these are the birds, and they're putting on these elaborate displays. They're trying to attract a mate. They're doing this, but being there and witnessing it was amazing. But then capturing that moment where it was fully outstretched and you could, straight up, but the feathers, that's one of my all-time favorite photos. Yeah.
It was beautiful. Really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love your bird photography.
Thank you. Thank you.
So have you set any goals for 2023?
2023, less. So I tend to do a lot of more bird portraits, and I am guilty of just always cropping, no matter where the bird is, just crop in and get the bird, and because I love detail, and I love when you can see the details of the feathers or what have you. I am trying to work on capturing more of the habitat,
the environment.
Capturing more of the environment that the bird is in. And I was proud of myself. There was an Hinga, I posted recently, and I was proud of myself because I didn't crop. Well, I did in the second image, but the first image, I didn't crop. I tried to show where she was and what the environment was. And that also tells part of the story. It's like this moment in time, and it's where she was and what her environment looked like. And I realized that's an important part of the story. So don't default to just cropping in and just getting the bird. I'm trying to pay more attention to, or not crop as much, but also pay attention to the backgrounds more. Like I said, I love bokeh. And I know that you can get, I could, if I had $11,000, I could buy a 600, F4, and it probably would help with the bokeh. But I think you know, what also helps is if I move my position and I can get the bird at a different angle and there's nothing behind it, it's like, that's free, you know, that makes for a good bokeh. So I want to work on paying attention to the background. Don't just stand in one spot and take 100 pictures of the bird in this one spot. You know, try it from different angles and pay attention to the background, see if there's a less busy background if you know, shoot from this angle or that angle. But then when it is, you know, in its environment, don't be afraid to show the bird in its environment. Don't always feel like you have to crop in to just show the bird. Just be okay with showing where it was in that moment. So I think just being things to make me a better photographer. Those are the things that I want to work on in 2023. So,
all right, I want to switch gears. Speaking of gear, aside from that camera thing that you shoot with,
yes.
Do you have like, what is the clothing called, Keisha? Is the camouflagey, outdoorsy?
Oh, you're talking about, camouflage, camo.
The camo? Is it? I thought it was a different term for it.
It's a military term.
Okay. So, Natalie, are you out there with bright colors on, or are you like camoed so you can camouflage to blend in with the trees and the environment?
When I first started, I didn't really pay attention to what I would put on. So I'm sure, you know, the birds saw me a mile away because I might have on bright, you know, white, yellow, pink, whatever I felt like wearing that day.
They were like, look at her. Yeah.
They probably were. And then I started, you know, learning that, okay, it might be better to do more muted colors. So I don't have a full camo suit, but I have the lens wraps for my camera. And then I tend to wear like black or gray or just more darker, more natural colors that just kind of blend in. So I am more intentional about what I wear and not being bright and sunshine when I'm trying to take pictures of wildlife. So I try to blend.
They're looking at you like, we see you.
Right, exactly. Right.
Let me go to this branch.
Exactly.
So when doing bird photography, what is the one thing you must have with you other than your camera? Like, is there a specific item you must have with you at all times?
Deep woods off.
Bugs spraying because you're in Florida.
The bugs here are no joke. The horse flies, the yellow flies, the no-see-ums, all of to be outside, even if you're walking, you know, even if I'm walking in my backyard, you know, I'm covered in bug spray. I mean, because bugs will, they seem to like me. So I'm always getting bit.
They're jealous, Natalie.
They're jealous.
They're like, hey, you have a macro lens. What about us?
They want some attention. They want some attention. Okay. I'm going to try to give them more attention and see if that helps. But I definitely have to do bug spray. And then so no matter if it's a short outing, a long outing, bug spray is a must. And then aside from that is we've learned hydration and snacks. Because, you know, you can go out to a park and you find yourself and it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And suddenly you realize, you know, I'm hot, you know, and I'm thirsty and I'm hungry. And, you know, so we always carry snacks with us and hydration. But that's pretty much it. Bug spray, hydration and snacks and the gear.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you lay down like on the ground to kind of get some images as well? Not yet.
Not yet. I'm not, and I know I should. I know that I've heard and learned that it's important to get eye level with your subject, and sometimes you have to get on the ground. Now I will squat. I will squat and get low, but and sometimes I'll put one knee down, but I'm not yet to the point of, you know,
You're not all the way there yet.
I'm not there yet. If I did it and I got an amazing photo, I probably would be hooked. And I'd be like, hey, I'm over it. I'm getting down on the ground every single time. But I do try to lower myself, because I know that those pictures, when you can capture your subject at eye level, I know that makes for a better image. So I will try to lower myself. Just haven't gotten to to laying on the ground just yet.
You're like, excuse me, I told you earlier, I will take pictures of bugs. Now you want me to be neighborly and close to bugs?
Right. I'm not there yet.
Just
That's
a little
okay.
bit, not close.
One day,
Okay.
one day I'll get there. But that's where I think about, you know, is there, you know, especially if there's thick grass or whatever, is there a snake? Is there, you know, an alligator just on the other side? So not there yet.
That's right. You are in Florida.
Yes.
So
I'll kneel down.
do you use a tripod, or you mostly handheld?
Mostly handheld. I do have a monopod. We got a monopod shortly after my accident, because the 2-6 was just too heavy to hold initially. So we got a monopod, and but I don't usually use it. I usually am just kind of handheld. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the cotton carrier or the?
I've seen it in advertisements, but I'm
Get
not.
it. Changes the game.
Really? The one that you strap and that it hooks?
Yes, and
metal?
you have your camera, Canon camera, on your chest with your long
Or
telephoto
Sony.
lens.
It
Yes,
fits Sony too, right?
it probably does. Of course, yeah, it does.
I've seen them advertised, but I've not.
Changes the
really
game.
looked into it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And hey, if you want to send us one, cotton carriers,
Mhm.
we'll take 3. I just need an extra one. And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. It's a shout out to the manufacturer. Send us so we can
Yes. Yes,
to
please.
us.
Yes. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So like when you're out, is there a certain distance you go, like for as looking for these birds, or
Travel distance, you mean?
no,
Or
like walking, like if you're hiking or walking, or
I don't know that we've maxed out on a distance. Like I said, the place we went a couple of weekends ago, it was probably almost a 3-mile loop. I don't think I've been any place that's been longer than that, and other than Merritt Island, but you can drive, so it's, you know, we drive there. But no, we probably, I guess we've spent maybe 4 or 5 hours at one location just walking, you know.
Okay.
So that usually by that time, you know, when you stop taking pictures, when you say, oh yeah, I see it over there, and you just keep walking, it's like, okay, we're tired. We're done for the day.
Like, I'm tired of him telling me that he sees the bird and I don't. Let's go.
Yes, that too. That too.
Okay.
What advice would you give someone that is just starting? I mean, although, you know, you said earlier you've been into this game for 3 years, but you've done the research and stuff. What would you tell someone that's just starting yesterday? And they see your images and they're like, I love your work.
I would say so 2 things. One, YouTube is your friend. I was never on YouTube as much as when I was learning photography, and still am. And there are a lot of photographers out there who are willing to take the time to make the videos and teach you, you know, the do's and don'ts, and, you know, just the basics and the things that you really need to understand to get your camera off of auto mode and to shoot in manual and to learn how to change the different settings. There are a ton of videos out there, and every now and then you'll stumble on someone, and you know, either how they're speaking or how they explained it made a lot of sense. And you can subscribe to their channel, and then you know, see other videos, and you can learn a lot on YouTube. And then just go out and shoot. Just go shoot. I think I've learned the more I shoot, the better I get. Because you take a ton of photos and you can see, oh, this worked, or that worked, or, oh, now I know what that means when, you know, this phrase came up, or that, oh, that's why the blinkies help. Cause now I can see how, I see how that white bird is flashing. So now I know to adjust, you know, my shutter speed or my exposure compensation. And then, okay, oh my gosh, that worked. But you can't learn that on YouTube. I mean, you can hear about it, but when you're actually out there and it happens, or you take the pictures and you look at them when you get home and you're like, man, that was overexposed, or, you know, that wasn't as sharp as I wanted it to be, or man, that was a busy background. I should have moved. I should have changed directions. Why do I have 100 images from the same bird and the same location? I gotta let up off the shutter and move and take it from a different angle. But those are the things that you learn from being out there. So I would say to someone who's just starting, you know, get out there and shoot, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because all of us have made plenty of mistakes, and that's how you learn. That's how you learn. So I'd say that. And also what I'm still trying to learn is, don't get caught up in, if you do choose to share your images on social media, don't get caught up in the likes and using that as an assessment of whether or not this is a good photo. Because if you liked it,
that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Mhm.
If you like it, that's all that matters. And I have to remind myself of that very often. Because it's, you know, you post something and you don't get a lot of likes, and then you compare it to some other image and it got a ton of likes, and then you can start just this self-defeating talk, and it doesn't matter. If you like it, share it.
Right.
Nobody,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. So that's what I would say. Once you start sharing your images, don't get caught up and distracted by the count. Either way, just if you like it, share it. So.
Great advice.
That really was.
Because people they'll be like, this was a banger and I only got was 2 likes, my mama and me.
Right.
I
mean.
Oh goodness, my little partner.
Yes.
So I think we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, that, you know, it's not that many, you know, of us out there, you know, African Americans, you know, we make up a small, I don't even know what the number is, percentage of landscape, nature, and wildlife photography. So share with us, what does it mean to you when you see someone that you can identify with out there doing this?
It is this feeling of belonging. That's what, like I said, when I came across the, you know, Black Birders Week, it was just, oh my God, I didn't know. I picked this up as a hobby. I didn't know that other people, that other, you know, other people of color, other Black people, other Black men, other Black women, I didn't know that others were out here doing it too. And that we were all, you know, learning from each other. So it was a tremendous sense of belonging, and, you know, to be part of a community in general, you know, photographer community in general, but even more specific, that, you know, to be learning from and sharing with other Black women has been like amazing, because it's just that, you know, it's just that feeling of belonging and being part of a community. And just learning from each other and sharing it. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
Natalie, thank you so much for being available to interview with us. At this time, will you share with our viewers how they can get in touch? You know, drop your social media handles. If you have a website, can you share that with our viewers?
Sure. I am on Instagram as NMACPix, so NMAC_PIX. So that's where everyone can find me.
Okay. And again, thank you. We appreciate you. We love your photography. And for our viewers, please go check out Natalie's work at NMACPix. Holler at her on Instagram. Tell her that you saw it here on YouTube because you had just liked, subscribe, and you're going to share, and you're going to comment. Okay? Because we are out here. Right, Keisha? Tell them. Tell them. Because I'm about to get emotional.
All of Natalie's contact information will be in the description below. So make sure you go and check out her work. This concludes our segment, and we would like to thank our audience for watching, supporting our channel. Please be sure to share this video. And for those of you who have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to our growing channel and hit the notification bell to be notified of new content.
You can ring my bell.
Thank you for watching.